welcome to Goa and to our first briefing for the various summits that are scheduled to take place here. We are going to begin, as you know, with a very, very important summit, the India-Russia Annual Summit that is going to take place tomorrow. President Putin is arriving late tonight, and tomorrow we shall have this important summit, which is an annual event. To brief you on this important summit, to provide you a perspective on what to expect, I am privileged to have with me Shri Pankaj Saran, our ambassador to Moscow, and Shri G.V. Srinivas, our joint secretary Eurasia, who handles relations with Russia. The way we will handle it is, G.V. will read out a statement to you, will give you a broad brush picture of the India-Russia Annual Summit, the relationship at this juncture. I'll ask our ambassador to supplement that if he has any further thoughts to offer, and then we'll open up to Q&A. Please remember, this press conference is specifically for the India-Russia Summit, so I will not be taking any questions on BRICS or other issues for which there will be separate press briefings. With that, I give the floor to G.V. Srinivas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As Vikas has just pointed out, President Putin is visiting India and Goa for two events, both BRICS and before that India-Russia Bilateral Annual Summit. The tradition of annual summits began in year 2000 when we established strategic partnership with Russia. In fact, India-Russia Strategic Partnership Annual Summit was one of the first to begin with. In the year 2010, we upgraded our strategic partnership to special and privileged strategic partnership. So this year in Goa, we will have 17th annual summit between India and Russia. We have very extensive interactions with Russia since the last summit in Moscow in December 2015. Our Prime Minister and President Putin have met on the margins of two events. That's the SCO summit in Tashkent and thereafter in Hangzhou in China. In addition to, of course, telephonic conversations, and also on 10th of August, if you recall, both of them dedicated via video link the Kudamkulam Unit 1 to Indo-Russian friendship. You may be aware, as per the program, tomorrow also a number of events are planned in the same series of Kudamkulam, other units, which you will definitely be knowing and also seeing first hand yourself. A summit of the nature that we are going to have tomorrow needs extensive preparations, and we are fortunate to have an extensive institutional relationship with Russia, which culminated in the nature of Intergovernmental India-Russia Commission, which is led on our side by our External Affairs Minister and on the Russian side by the Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Rogozin. Both of them very ably steered this interaction on 13th of September 2016. Deputy Prime Minister Rogozin had also come separately in the month of August, further advancing our relationship. All these and the various working groups which we have with Russia in practically all the areas that you can imagine have prepared, and you will see that a series of developments, agreements will be signed tomorrow. I will just emphasize that India-Russia strategic and special and privileged strategic partnership is characterized by unmatched mutual confidence, trust and goodwill cutting across the party lines as well as between citizens of the two countries. The broad geopolitical interests of India and Russia not only do not clash, but in most cases also coincide. The bilateral partnership covers widest possible areas of cooperation, as I just pointed out, and which will also be on display tomorrow. We all know that Russia has been instrumental in securing for India the membership in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is well on its track, as also they are the ones who supported us on MTCR, as also on an application to NSG membership. So there is a very good interaction between India and Russia in bilateral, regional, international levels. Just to end, next year we will be celebrating the 70th year of India-Russia diplomatic relations. Yet again, we wish to use that as an occasion, and we have planned a series of events cutting across all the areas of collaboration between the two countries, which will also be organized next year. With that, Vikas, I'll end. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas. I'll now turn to our ambassador to Moscow to give you the perspective as he sees it. He's one of our most distinguished diplomats. He is a Russian expert, and now he's our ambassador to Moscow. So over to ambassador.
Well, thank you, Vikas. Firstly, it's a great pleasure to be here in Goa for the BRICS summit. I know that back in Moscow and in Russia, there is a huge deal of interest in the Goa summit of BRICS, largely for the reason that it was under Russian patronage and encouragement that the BRICS grouping actually began to flourish. And as far as Russia is concerned, they attach a very high degree of importance to the BRICS summit. Traditionally, the bilateral summit is held every year, alternately in India and Russia. But because this year India was president of BRICS, the two sides agreed to coincide the annual summit with the BRICS summit. So therefore, tomorrow morning, the bilateral summit will take place. And this is the 17th summit between the two countries, which means that President Putin has met Indian Prime Ministers 17 times since 2000. And this speaks for itself in terms of the intensity of high-level political engagement between Russia and India. Historically, over the decades, our relationship with Russia has strengthened, it has deepened, and it has widened. Today, it is very legitimate to talk about a comprehensive relationship. In fact, it is more than a relationship, it is a partnership, and very justifiably, it has been described by the two leaders as both special and privileged, as well as, of course, strategic. With every summit, we have seen progress being made in new areas and progress being made in existing areas. And I have full confidence that the meeting between the leaders tomorrow will be a very important and significant milestone in the relationship. The menu is vast. A lot of hard work has gone into preparing the summit meeting. And as far as India is concerned, the relationship with Russia is among the most important relationships that India has with any country in the world. It is based on mutual trust, mutual understanding, mutual respect, and it encompasses every field of activity that we can think of. So the engagement is cross-cutting, it is very deep, it is very intense, and it is poised to grow even further. I would just end with these introductory comments.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'll just give you a readout on the program for the India-Russia summit tomorrow. President Putin arrives at 1 a.m. tonight, that is early morning of 15th. From 11 to 12, there will be restricted talks between the two delegations. From 12 to 1 will be the full delegation level talks. At 1:05, we will have the exchange of agreements, followed by the witnessing of the laying of the foundation concrete of the Kudankulam nuclear power plant units 3 and 4, followed by press statements by the Prime Minister of India and the President of Russia. So that will be the program for the India-Russia annual summit. As you know, this is the 17th annual summit. The floor is now open for questions. Please identify yourself when you ask the question. I first give the question to Manish Chand. Please identify yourself.
Manish Chand, India Rights Network. Sir, we often tend to use laudatory adjectives to describe India-Russia partnership, special, privileged, strategic. But in the light of Pakistan's Russia decision to go ahead with joint exercises with Pakistan, has something changed in our equations? We have conveyed our concerns. What has been Russia's response? Are we expecting Russia to scrap this burgeoning defense partnership with Pakistan? Thank you.
No, I mean, I think we have to distinguish between the general trend of the relationship that I have described to you, which describes the partnership and the relationship that has developed over decades. I think your question alludes to a specific incident or an episode which occurred a few weeks ago. I do not think it is at all legitimate to reduce this relationship that has been built up over several decades to what has happened a few days ago. Number two, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we have conveyed our concerns and views to the Russian side. This has been done and it has been conveyed to you in public through the official spokesman. There is nothing new to add on this front at all. We are confident that Russia will reflect upon our concerns, and that is where we stand right now.
Yep. Please take the mic and identify yourself.
Ambassador Sir, this is Mahmood Nawaz from Mustaqbil, New Delhi. I want to know, what are the new areas of cooperation both countries are looking at?
At one level, of course, I would wait till tomorrow evening for the discussion between the leaders. But without prejudice to those discussions, I would say, broadly speaking, we are making new inroads into certain sectors like energy, like infrastructure, like railways. We are also looking at areas like agriculture, and we are looking at high technology. So these are some of the areas that we are looking at. We are also looking at the importance of improving connectivity between India and Russia, because this has proved to be an obstacle in the growth of our trade and economic partnership. I would say that today, the India of today and the Russia of today are more ambitious than they have ever been in the past about finding new areas and moving forward in all of them.
Yep. At the back, Parikshit.
Sir, we've been hearing about...
Please identify yourself to him.
So I'm Parikshit Luthra from CNN News 18. So Ambassador Saran, we've been hearing about major defense deals that are going to be signed, especially relating to S-400 Triumph anti-aircraft defense systems and also a joint venture of Kamov helicopters. Could you tell us about that? Will that be finalized tomorrow?
Yeah, I think tomorrow you will see a very wide range of decisions that will be announced. I think it would be unfair to identify or to specify or to pick one or two agreements. I would only say wait till tomorrow. By this time you would know what is on the table. But all I can say is that it's a very broad menu, and I would say that it is fully reflective of the kind of relationship that I have described to you.
Deepanjan.
Sir, what are the...
Please identify yourself. How many times I have to?
Deepanjan from Economic Times. What are the geopolitical issues that the two leaders, sort of from Syria to Ukraine to East Asia, how are the two sides looking at these issues? And what would be some concrete, if any, any kind of reflections on these issues?
Yeah, so exactly. The India-Russia relationship today is much more than just the bilateral dimension of the relationship. Obviously, we know that Russia is a world power with global foreign policy interests, including in the Asia Pacific region. And similarly, India itself is a very significant player on the international scene. So, regional and global issues, which are current hotspots in the world, I imagine would be discussed between the two leaders, and this would carry on the tradition of previous summits. So, there are trouble spots in the world, which we know. There are stakes which both Russia has in them. There are stakes which we have in them. And we can assume that when the leaders of India and Russia meet, they will be open to discussion on all major regional and global and international issues.
Mahasidiki.
Ambassador Sarana Mahasidiki from India Today TV. You said that India has already expressed its concerns to Russia with regards to Pakistan and the joint military exercise, and that it's for them to reflect upon it now. But can we expect the matter to come up again tomorrow just to re-emphasize India's concerns?
Well, I would not like to prejudge in any manner what exactly will be the agenda for discussion tomorrow. I will only repeat what I said earlier, that where there are issues of interest to either Russia or India, I imagine these would come up for discussion.
Charu Kasturi.
Master Saran, last December...
Please identify yourself.
Sorry. Charu Kasturi from the Telegraph newspaper. Master Saran, last December when Prime Minister had visited Moscow for the last annual summit, after discussions he mentioned how on Syria, Indian and Russian positions were fairly closely aligned. Does that remain the position today after the fallout that's happened between Russia and the United States over their approach to Syria?
Well, I think the Prime Minister's statement in December 2015 remains absolutely valid. And since then to now, there have been changes on the ground. There have been developments at the United Nations. So I'm sure the leaders will discuss this. But the policy position which the Prime Minister enunciated in December 2015 remains valid.
Kalol.
Sir, Kalol Bhattacharjee from The Hindu. Just want to highlight this point that recently the head of the Russian Institute of Strategic Studies described that there is a difference between Russian and Indian understanding of terrorism as it emanates from Pakistan. India perceives Pakistan as the global epicenter of terrorism, whereas Russian position in this regard has changed from 1980s to the 21st century. And Russians now also perceive Pakistan not just as a problematic area of terrorism, but also as a kind of victim of terror, global terror. Do you think this difference in understanding terrorism from Pakistan will feature in the talks, or will you address this difference from the Indian side?
For sure, terrorism will be a subject of discussion. I think that is something that would be expected, and that would be very, very natural for both leaders to discuss. Insofar as the view that you have quoted, that's his view. We have not heard that view from the government of Russia.
Ian.
Hi, I was just wondering, it's Ian Marlowe from Bloomberg News. I was just wondering if you could tell us anything about any of the business deals that will be announced tomorrow, in particular growing energy cooperation between, in particular, Indian companies and Rosneft.
Yeah. Well, already in the course of the last 12 months, several Indian companies have concluded deals with Rosneft and some of the other Russian companies. This is an ongoing process. It's a commercial process. But tomorrow I expect that we will have some more agreements that will be announced after the summit between Russian majors and some Indian companies. So let us wait for that.
Tripti Nath.
Tripti Nath from the Asahi Shimbun, Japan's leading newspaper. Are the two sides likely to discuss a calendar of events to be planned for marking 70 years of India-Russia relations next year?
Indeed, they will. It is an ambitious program. The idea is that it should be reflective of the contemporary India-Russia relationship. It should cater to the young generations of both countries. It should be as inclusive as possible, both in terms of its thematic content as well as its regional spread within Russia, within India. So you take the friendship back to the people. So yes, there will be a roadmap.
Okay. At the back, yeah, Aditya.
Ambassador Saran, this is Aditya Raj call from Times Now. Again on counterterrorism, sorry to be repetitive, but in the backdrop of Senator Mushahid Hussain, who was a special envoy of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in US, and he made a statement at the Atlantic Council that Islamabad was not just concerned about US as a global power, they consider Russia and China more so global powers, and in this context they are tilted more, Islamabad is more tilted towards Russia and China now. So in this backdrop, what do you think? Do you think that counterterrorism is much more important as a dialogue tomorrow, a subject of dialogue tomorrow? And if Vikas, you can throw some light on, Sartaj Aziz has just made a statement in
nice
Pakistan.
Try, no chance.
All right, thank you.
Well, as far as Mushahid Hussain is concerned, all I can say is I wish Pakistan best of luck.
Yeah.
But as far as terrorism is concerned, I've already answered your question. It will be on the table.
Certainly. Douglas.
Douglas Busfine from Reuters. Could I return to Energy Corporation? In the energy transactions that you hope to announce tomorrow, how have you addressed the Western financial sanctions issue against Russia, a workaround, and what is the Indian position on these sanctions?
Well, on the first part, I think you will have to ask the companies themselves, because obviously they have been successful. And what I learned from the companies is that the money has actually already been transferred and the shares have been transferred. So the conclusion, the contract is settled and executed. On the second question, India's position all along has been that we do not recognize unilateral sanctions.
Correct. Any other questions? Okay, I'll give Mr. Nawaz one more.
Connectivity. So what you meant land connectivity. So what are the plans?
Well, again, I'd like to leave this for the discussions tomorrow, but I meant it in the broadest possible sense. I meant it in the sense of physical connectivity. I meant it in the sense of trade connectivity, in terms of people-to-people movement, in terms of energy connectivity, and in terms of all other modes of economic activity that we need to bridge and we need to expand between India and Russia.
Since there are no more questions, I'll now give you a complete lowdown on the activities that are taking place tomorrow. So this is the schedule for tomorrow. 1 a.m., as I said, is the arrival of the President of Russia. Then 8:40 is the arrival of the President of Brazil. 10 o'clock is the arrival of the President of the Republic of South Africa. Then 11 o'clock onwards, as I said, the India-Russia annual summit will begin with the photo op, followed by the restricted talks and the delegation level talks, followed by the exchange of agreements, the witnessing of the laying of the foundation concrete of the Kudankulam nuclear power plants units 3 and 4, the press statements, which will conclude the India-Russia annual summit. At 1:10 p.m., we have the arrival of the President of the People's Republic of China. At 2 o'clock, we have the arrival of the Prime Minister of Bhutan. Also at 2 o'clock, we have the arrival of the Prime Minister of Nepal. From 4:30 to 5:45 p.m. will be the meeting of the BRICS Business Council. This will be in Hotel Lalit, and I would advise all of you to cover that, because that will be an important input into the BRICS leaders meeting. At 5:45, in fact, there is a press interaction following the BRICS Business Council, which media can cover. It's again at Hotel Lalit. The bilateral meeting, which I'm sure all of you are very much interested, between India and China, is taking place tomorrow between 5:40 and 6:10 p.m. here. These meetings will all be in Hotel Exotica. From 6:20 to 6:50, we have scheduled the meeting, the bilateral between India and South Africa. So Prime Minister will be meeting President Jacob Zuma. From 7:10 onwards will be the BRICS leaders' informal dinner here in Taj Exotica. At 8:40, after the conclusion of the dinner, we expect the BRICS leaders to have a group photo with the BRICS under-17 football team's captains. As you know, this is an important people-to-people sports-related activity which is taking place right here in Goa. And the last event of tomorrow will be at 10:10 p.m., the arrival of the President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. So that is the schedule for tomorrow. We will be putting out this as a form of a media advisory on our website very shortly, but this is to give you advance intimation of what to expect. Throughout the course of the day, I will be hopefully doing briefings depending on when I can get out of the meetings. So the idea is to keep you continuously updated. If not through direct briefings, then through the WhatsApp group. Idea would be to keep you as updated as possible. For all the media who are here, we had a record number of registrations. We had 1,000 plus registrations for the BRICS summit, which was even beyond our expectations. So we had to, the original plan was to have one big media hangar of about 500 people where all of you could be accommodated, but as it turned out, once the numbers exceeded way beyond 500, we had to look at alternative arrangements. So now what we have done is we have created two separate media hangars. This is called the Palm Grove Media Center, and there is an Ayurveda Court Media Center which is on the other side. The issue for us was how do we divide, who do we put where. First we tinkered with first come first served, etc. But the problem was the foreign delegations have also requested use of the media center. The Chinese delegation would like to brief their journalists, the Russian delegation would like to brief their journalists, the Brazilian delegation theirs, and so on. So eventually what we have decided is all the Indian media, this will be our base of operations, the Palm Grove Media Center. All foreign media, the base of operations will be the Ayurveda Court Media Center. And that is why if you see your entry cards, there will be separate stickers. Today is an exception because today, as I said, we don't have 600, 800 people. So today we could allow all of you here. But from tomorrow, that will be the arrangement. But we have made provision for feeds. Whatever I'm speaking here will be fed into the screens there. And whatever is being briefed there will be fed onto the screens here. So, both people on both sides will be aware of what's happening. And otherwise, the screen behind me will show you the plenary sessions which are open to the press statement by the leader. There will be only one press statement which will be by the Prime Minister. The press for the India-Russia annual summit will be there is a separate, if you see the big dome, behind that there is a separate media hangar. You will all have access to the press statements. That's not an issue. And similarly, on the 16th, when the BRICS concludes, it will conclude with Prime Minister's statement. That will also be delivered there. So that is the only time you will have access to any venue beyond the media centers, because otherwise only audio-visual media is allowed to cover some of the events which are taking place inside Taj Exotica. So thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Goa. This concludes the press briefing for tonight. Thank you all.